Hi, welcome to Up Your Nerd Cred. Did you used to know everything that was happening in the Marvel and DC universes? Did finding out that Marvel and DC are completely different universes and some superheroes are from one and some are from the other blow your mind? Has keeping track of everything that's been happening there, and then realizing that we're only talking about the comics universe and not the cinematic ones, and all these different universes with all of their different multiversal crises have gotten a bit out of hand? Well, don't worry. Up Your Nerd Cred is here to talk about the gods cosplaying as men, the men cosplaying as gods, and how much cinematic universes are really leaving out. At the end of each episode, you'll hopefully know a little more than you did and can up your nerd cred. I'm your casual nerd host, CiCi. I have made more comments about chaos, magic, and how cool it is to only have probability be your boss this week than most people have in a while, actually. So this is why I can't research the bejesus out of things all willy-nilly. It very much has to be like ordered and structured and William-nillian, or my entire wardrobe and personality change somehow.
Okay, and on that note, I am your hyperfixated magical co-host, AM Diaz, who has spent the entire month of July jumping from the excitement of the X-Men adventures at the Uncanny Experience to the fantastical blue carpet magic of the Fantastic Four First Steps premiere, and finally getting some much-needed time to relax with a gay old trip to Palm Springs. But now I'm back, tanned, sober, and ready to talk all things Wanda and her constantly chaotic, shifting backstory.
I mean, sobriety is a choice. So,
Well, it was not a choice this weekend. It was everywhere.
Nice. As per usual, though, I feel like the first question should be, like, what are we nerding out about this week? Now, just reminding listeners that you can nerd out about all kinds of things. And it doesn't just have to be about heroes and villains. And the arguments are pretty wild. The guy in charge of Oklahoma schools has porn on his work laptop like an idiot.
Which of them don't?
No, he got he got caught by other school board members.
I know. I'm just saying, it's like a lot of these people are like, probably have it. They're just better at hiding it.
Fair. I'm pretty sure that the CEO of Astronomer is trying to sue Coldplay because he got caught cheating on the Jumbotron.
Because that's their fault.
No, I specifically said that the Coldplay scandal was over. No, we're done. No, what we're talking about is that I haven't seen Galactus look this good in years. I think we should nerd out about that this week.
I mean, hard not to, considering the fact that this is by far the best Fantastic Four movie, arguably, in my opinion.
I can't think of one that is better, realistically speaking. Like,
because I will
this
say
is this is the most accurate that we've ever seen, like, Franklin and Galactus be as well.
Well, and to be fair, it's probably the only time we've seen Franklin. I don't think we've seen him in any other media outside the comics. Now, he never appeared in the previous movies. I don't think he ever appeared in the cartoons of any of them.
Oh, that's
the only
fair.
The only thing we've ever had even remotely implying Franklin was in Multiverse of Madness, where Reed admitted that he had 2 children.
I mean, that part was important, but to be fair, that was also right. We don't necessarily need to talk.
Should we be saying spoilers? Because I know that by the time this episode comes out, a lot of people have seen it, but not everybody has, so spoilers.
I am not. The fact that Franklin was in the trailers means it's not that much of a spoiler.
But not everybody sees the trailers.
That's fair, but it is the trailers are really hard to avoid. I generally actually have been trying to not look at the trailers, and I knew that Franklin had somehow managed to make it into the world, and was actually really surprised to find out how much of bringing him into the world was a part of the plot point, because they had him and his parents doting on him so much in the trailers and the promotional material.
Right, but a lot of people aren't paying attention to that. I mean, I'm not on TV much. I wasn't getting a lot of those trailers except for the ads from Marvel on Facebook and whatnot, or not Facebook, Instagram. So it's easy to scroll past. That's the only reason I'm saying let's just give a spoiler warning for any
That's fair.
things we might like.
That's fair. So then what I will say is that if there is anybody who has not yet seen the Fantastic Four, all you need to know is that the Franklin and Galactus setups in the movie have been better than any other movie, and they have been more accurate than any other movie. And at this point, if you haven't seen Fantastic Four, I'm going to make a note in the show notes where you can skip ahead because we really need to talk about Franklin and Galactus. I am so sorry if you haven't seen it yet. Please go see this movie. It's really good, honestly.
All I'm gonna say is
Probably one of the most grounded Marvel movies that we've had in like a really long time.
I agree. Fantastic. I've seen it twice now. Once
Same.
at the premiere and then with some friends recently. And both times...
I saw the second time as 40X. Obviously, the first time was Baby Days, but the second time was 40X.
But both times that I've seen it, I have enjoyed every single moment of it. It's the characters are all developed, they're all given gravitas and their own plot points. I'd say the one who didn't get as much was probably the Thing, Ben Grimm. He was kind of more the emotional support character.
Fair.
Which, you know, it's a change of pace because usually it's like, oh, woe is him, he's suffering because he is a rock man.
Yeah.
And with this one, it was more, you know, we got some great development for Sue and Reed as partners, as parents. Sue in particular, MVP. MVP of this movie, hands down.
I mean, look, I saw it initially at Baby Days. And again, Franklin Richards, you have seen the trailers. That baby is super cute, and there is a prospect that Sue has to go mama bear.
He gets a little creepy in the CGI department.
All right, look, we're not going to sit there and go too deep on this, okay?
Remember, all I'm saying is the times where they put the baby in the Thing's arms, and you can tell it's a CGI baby. It was
remember what Renesmee looked like?
There was a few times where this wasn't too far off from that.
Fair.
I mean, not as bad, but still where you kind of had that Uncanny Valley vibe.
For anybody, but no.
But going back to characters, like Johnny Storm got a great, story arc where it's like he is actually allowed to be something other than the cute himbo.
Yes, like I feel like not enough time has been spent on the part where like Johnny was actually, like they were actually all scientists. The fact that the Fantastic Four has formed such a strong family does not surprise me in the least bit.
Were the rest of them? I mean, Reed 100% is neurodivergent. I mean, that guy is textbook. But the others...
I'm pretty sure that, like, the fans have casually agreed that Reed is autistic.
I mean, that's usually how he's presented in most media, just because... the hyperfixations, the fact that he doesn't quite understand social cues the way the others do.
Yeah. So again, we are not diagnosing anybody with anything. Like we're just mostly just like having a bit of just like, what is it that the fans have like suggested? I wanted to say how like Franklin and Galactus were accurate because to a certain extent, like, and you know what? We do have to get into spoilers a little bit on this end, but Galactus is sitting there talking about how like he is the survivor. They're just like, oh my god, like all of his like stuff is like from before this universe and everything. And Galactus is always complaining about like I am so hungry and I have this hunger and I need to sate this hunger and everything. Galactus is like backstory to a certain extent. He's from the previous version of the universe, and as the last survivor. He basically is...
a last survivor.
Is there another last survivor from his universe?
I mean, technically any cosmic entity is a survivor from the previous universe. The Phoenix predates Galactus, Eternity. So, like, characters that, have said that they pre-exist things, so it's hard to say.
But realistically speaking, I haven't seen Galactus look this good in years. So can we just nerd out about this?
I mean, to be fair, like previous movie versions of Galactus was a giant fart cloud. So not exactly the highest bar to clear.
You mean Galactus looking like Galactus?
Although I will say it's like we've had some good depictions in animation of Galactus. But yeah. For a live-action one, I mean, this is the only one where Galactus actually looked like how Galactus is supposed to look.
It was very cool, actually. Okay, side note, if you have not yet seen the Fantastic Four, please go see the movie. We are not necessarily spoiling stuff, but we are not spoiling stuff. So We will make a note in the show notes about where we are, like skipping into the B segment if you have not yet seen this, but I do want to be really excited about how good Galactus looks and also how comic accurate like the Galactus and Franklin Richards story is. That's very cool. So here's a space for you to go ahead and skip forward, skip
Still here?
forward, skip forward. Okay, so the part where Galactus is just like, this baby is gonna take my hunger. I'm just like, because
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's just like Franklin, for those who are familiar with the comics, he's essentially God. I mean, we always talk about like how Wanda's powerful, how Jean Grey is powerful, but Franklin is going to arguably outlast maybe all of them. The Phoenix might outlast him just because of the fact that it's a source of creation, life and death, and all that stuff. But Franklin, he's going to be here. That's the thing. It's like when the universe goes out, Franklin and Galactus are going to be the last two guys to shut out the lights and put up the chairs.
I mean,
Because
somebody has to.
Yeah, because with Franklin, it's like he's got this double whammy of powers. He is, first off, the son of Reed and Sue, and they were exposed to cosmic radiation and gained their powers. So Franklin's got cosmic radiation running through him. And
I mean,
also,
the power cosmic, honestly, like just full on.
well, that's exactly what it is. It's like the cosmic radiation was the power cosmic.
I mean, if you watch Doctor Who, that's how we ended up with Melody Pond, because she was conceived in the time vortex. So that's it's gonna throw off a lot of your standard human-y type things if you're born, conceived.
But then to add extra, a little extra dash of pepper to that combo, we also have the fact that Franklin was born a mutant. And not just any kind of mutant, an Omega level mutant, which is the top tier power level where it's essentially there's no limitation to their abilities. They can just keep getting stronger and stronger, more powerful. So Franklin's got a double whammy. That's the reason why it's like there's always the argument of who's more powerful, Phoenix or Franklin, because both of them are working on an entirely different level from every other being in the galaxy.
Yeah, but like I recognize that there's a little bit of that Franklin is like a little kid, but the Phoenix does not choose vessels who have to put full psychic blocks on themselves for like 10 to 15 years so that they're able to get through the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, so with the Phoenix and Jean, they're literally one being. There's no separation.
Right.
With Franklin, meanwhile, his powers are also just one part of him. And it's funny enough, he did not really put mental blocks on himself for anything other than him just wanting to be a normal kid.
I mean, I think that makes sense, honestly.
Yeah, because it's like when you've got the power to literally create universes in the palm of your hand, that's a lot of pressure on, at the time of this recording, a 16-year-old.
Sometimes you just want to go and make stupid decisions with your friends the way that every other 16-year-old does.
Yeah, and, Franklin's been through a lot in his short life. I mean, aged up, de-aged, his parents were murdered, he created a pocket dimension to store them in along with the Avengers, sister drama, being, sent into an alternate universe timeline where he aged up over 10 years and then came back.
Okay, yeah. He goes through all that, but I'm sorry. The fact that this man eventually gets to the point where Galactus is his herald, the fact that this man gets to the point where he's like, to me, my Galactus.
They're besties. It's like, honestly, at this point, Franklin and Galactus have, like, in the comics, have an understanding, and they're cool with each other, essentially.
I mean, I guess they better be if they're like the last people at the end of the universe.
Yeah.
Like, that's like your neighbor. There's not anybody else that you could talk to.
In this movie, it's like Franklin's still a literal baby. Like, he had not even popped out of his mom's belly yet, and Galactus is like, I'm gonna use that kid. I'm gonna need that kid.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw it, I was just like, and again, this is a spoiler for Fantastic Four. This is a big spoiler for Fantastic Four. So if for some reason you decided that you didn't need to skip ahead, now is your last big chance because this is a big spoiler for Fantastic Four. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, when I first saw the movie, and Franklin was taking longer than I wanted to for him to bring Sue back, I'm like, sir, what are you doing? I don't care that you are a baby. Bring her back. And the second time I saw the movie, I was like, okay, actually, he didn't actually realize at first that like she was deceased. She thought that just like Uncle Johnny and Daddy were getting in the way of him like getting to Mommy. And then when he saw Mommy and he's just like, Mommy, why are you not responding to me? And he's just like, oh, you're dead? That's not a good reason for you to not respond to me. Here, let's just fix that. Mommy, give me snuggles. I'm just like, oh my God.
You've got a
I
very
cannot.
interesting viewpoint of what babies are able to accomplish.
Babies can do a lot, okay?
They
Again, like
can, they can,
they're
but you're like, you were annoyed by the fact that the infant who does not even realize what his toes are, you expect him to be able to easily access his cosmic powers the second his mother died.
first time I was just like, what's taking so long? And the second time I'm like,
What's
oh, he
taking?
just
I'm sorry, like 3-month-old,
swear to
4-month-old
God,
child. Why are you not bringing back your dead mother? My
yes.
God.
And
And
that's
they say people put pressure on
that's
children
why
in academics. You want
that's why
God, and
the
you're putting pressure
second
on
time that
God.
I watched it, the second time that I watched it, I realized that he was just like, Mommy's just not paying attention to me because she's dead. I can fix that. He didn't realize at first that she was like dead, like, and
Yeah,
I
because
thought that he had
as powerful as Franklin is, he still has the awareness of a baby.
And I thought that like he had noticed that like she might have been dead sooner than she was. And then once I realized that like he just thought that like Uncle Johnny and Daddy were just being annoying and keeping him from getting to Mommy. And once he figured out that Mommy was not being held back, then he's just like, oh, I can fix this. And then
Yeah.
what happened afterwards? Mommy gave him huggles and snuggles exactly like he wanted.
I'm pretty sure he was more vibing the energy of Johnny, Ben, and Reed screaming and crying, and that was upsetting him.
I mean, he was real proud of himself after he
I don't think
brought
he
it
was
back
upset that he
though.
was being kept from Mommy. I think he was upset, like, everybody else is upset. I need to know what's going on. And then when he sees what's going on and Mommy's not
You know what?
responding.
That is also fair. Like babies complain a lot about not knowing what's going on, despite the fact that as a baby, definitionally, you don't know what's going on.
Exactly. He doesn't understand what's going on, but he just knows it's about Mommy. And so he touches Mommy. He doesn't feel her touch back. He doesn't feel her heartbeat like he probably does when he's resting on her. And that's when it's like, something's
He's like,
broken. I need to fix it.
What's wrong with Mommy? Let me fix this. And then
Yeah.
Mommy comes back and he's so proud of himself. And you know
Hmm.
what, Franklin, baby, I am proud of you too. I am so proud of you too.
Yeah. It'll
So
be
let's take
interesting to
a
see where this leads with Franklin because, again, spoilers. After the movie ends, we jump ahead 4 years. So Franklin is a bit more aware. He's going to like preschool age, that sort of thing.
he's almost to kindergarten age because if you
Yeah,
think about
but not
like
yet. Because it's like,
he was almost a year old at the end of at the end of the movie. So if you figure
okay, I
four
wasn't
years
sure how
later,
much time had passed. It was really hard to say.
he's supposed to be about a year old at the end of the first at like the first ending he's supposed to be about a year old, and then 4 years later he's about 5 years old, which gets him. And again, he's generally like pre-K kindergarten, and honestly like this child probably should be homeschooled because if you send him to I saw somebody say that the Fantastic Four was the live action Incredibles, and I was so mad because Jack is a whole lot to take care of, and I imagine that Franklin is probably just as much.
Probably not. I mean, depending on what they're doing with the mythology here, because I know that a reoccurring thing was that Reed would put blockers on Frank's powers, so that way Franklin wasn't doing the power cosmic on his preschool class.
Which
And
is nice.
for a while, Franklin's entire powers were manifesting into like entering people's dreams and stuff like that. So he had some very low key powers for a while until, I mean, every so often they'd have like a big power moment and stuff or storyline, but around the age that Franklin's at currently, he would be in his, I call it the crybaby phase, because that was his code name when he was part of the Power Pack.
I mean,
It was the 80s. Kids are cruel.
and that is just the fact that like as a baby, like the babies are demanding and they cry a lot.
Yeah, but Franklin was like 4 at the time of when he joined the Power Pack.
Oh, he's 4. Huh, 4. Anyway, so let's take a quick break, and AM and I are going to argue about when Franklin should have actually been going and joining superhero team ups, and we will be back to talk about actually Wanda Maximoff, because guess what? The double episode is about to get real hard and heavy. Welcome back. Okay, so we're going to be talking about Wanda Maximoff this week. This is part 2 of our 2-part special on her. And if you did not catch part 1, you should almost certainly check out episode 8. Wanda's got, honestly, more retcons and costume changes. And considering the fact that her co-worker was Janet Van Dyne, that's a lot. And also, realistically speaking, if you started part 2, you're going to miss something. But don't worry, we'll try to keep things clear enough to follow, even if you're just jumping in at this episode. So, on the Wanda front, though, I know I said that I wasn't going to talk about Multiverse of Madness, but
we're going to talk about Multiverse of Madness.
The character assassination that they did in that movie, I'm still actively irritated about it. I'm pretty sure that they said that they hadn't, watched WandaVision before they actually...
They 100% said they did not watch it.
Yeah, and it was absolutely... It shows! Okay... Her going to, chase after her son, her screaming for help for her at the end of, the thing, where they're like, Mom, help, right? Absolutely in character. Wanda is, very much just, a big fan of her kids.
Yeah, it's fully... Wanda, for those who have read the comics, Wanda, again, we've discussed this before, the Avengers Disassembled storyline was legitimately Wanda going crazy and murdering her own fellow Avengers because she was pissed about her kids. However, at the time of that storytelling, that was out of character for Wanda because it was also a massive retcon to what actually happened to Wanda's backstory. But it's become part of her character at this point.
Within, Multiverse of Madness, though, the part where she's, sitting there fully terrorizing America Chavez and tearing up Camartage just for funsies? Yes, all of this is fully within her actual power, but coming off the guilt that she had post Westview, I mean, it kind of feels
and that's the rub.
Yeah,
that's the big rub because
season 8 surprise crazy situation,
and that is the problem. That is 100% the problem because WandaVision ended with Wanda regretting her actions. And yes, we did get that cut scene of her near Mount Wundagore, and she is with the Darkhold and doing the crazy things, and you hear the kids in her head and stuff. So the assumption is the book is corrupting her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we didn't see her descent into madness post Westview.
No,
so
they just
going from Westview to Multiverse Madness, where she has gone full blown, Sith Lord of the MCU. That's jarring for anybody who has been following her character, and it felt like they ignored everything that happened beforehand because
assassination.
Yeah, because if we had actually watched another season of WandaVision where we see Wanda falling deeper and deeper down the well, it's easier to handle. But an abrupt shift like that between one property to the next thing, and let's be honest, the big issue with MCU is that for a while now, a lot of the movies and shows just feel like they are episodes in a larger television show. So it's literally like going from episode 12 to episode 13, and the characters have a massive character shift.
Which doesn't make sense.
It doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel like this plot point is earned for her.
Yeah, there's literally no reason for her to sit there and be like, oh, my kids are sad. I'm not going to recognize the fact that this other child who does not have their parent might possibly be sad and terrorized by me. I recognize that Wanda's got a lot going on, but I do not think that she is so incapable of empathy as to, like I said, I don't think that Wanda terrorizing America Chavez makes sense. Not the way that she did it.
Honestly, the only way that they could justify it, and they didn't, is if the Darkhold is actually being influenced by a demonic power that is driving her to this.
Man.
But they heavily imply that this is all of Wanda's volition, that there's no additional power beyond the corruption of the book.
Okay, and see, this is why I think that the MCU is really, really not setting things up. Okay, so let's go within the comics and such, right? There's a whole big section of Wanda's backstory that we find out about at a point when she's dealing with Chthon, and Pietro's talking to Bova about where it is that they came up from. At some point, I'm guessing that she's able to find out about a bunch of her backstory and such, but it's not she's not constantly dealing with like the big forces of the universe kind of thing.
Well, it's the thing. It's like a lot of that stuff, like her finding out the backstory stuff, she probably learned from Pietro during an off-screen conversation because they're siblings. They were on the same team at the time, so they're gonna talk. Especially, it's like, Wanda, you won't believe what I just learned about us this time.
Listen, if your midwife is a cow, humanoid cow, cowmanoid, whatever,
Speaking of which, we're back on the comics, not on the movies. There's no
yes,
cow in the movies. At least, I
which
don't think
is
there is.
truly a tragedy. No, there's no cows in the movies. It's truly a
Well, I
tragedy.
mean, they can do a retcon if they wanted to. It's like, uh-oh. We never
They
saw
got
what Wanda and Pietro looked like when they were 3.
We did not see how they were born. We just saw their growth in Sokovia, which could have been anywhere. Anyway, that's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on, like, Wanda Maximoff, because, like, if we're going to sit there and get, like, kind of into the TV shows, we have to think about the fact that, like, Agatha Harkness was training Wanda in the show very slightly because she was annoyed at Wanda. But in the comics, like, she started training Wanda, like, in like the 1970s. Like this has been like
Well,
kind of like it's been
thi-
fairly common in her backstory that Agatha Harkness has been like training her on this whole witch thing.
Well, thing you have to remember is that Agatha that we see in the MCU is drastically different from Agatha in the comics
True.
up until more recent years, where they started to make her a bit more like the version in the
Yeah.
movies. But in the original comics, Agatha started off, funny enough, as Franklin Richards' nanny. Her first introduction was in the Fantastic Four, where she was the babysitter nanny for Franklin. And she had this cat, and she was creepy and all-knowing, and eventually Wanda came along, and Agatha's like, oh, this girl's got so much power, but probability manipulation is dangerous. So Agatha spent years training Wanda to control her powers, and she was essentially a mother figure for Wanda, considering the fact that Wanda didn't have any good parental figures at the time.
I mean, I still
Yeah.
think that it's a little bit messy that, like, because she was called the Scarlet Witch, like, when like, Wanda was called the Scarlet Witch when she came out, and she didn't, like, actually get witch training for a while. So I'm like, is it because of her hex powers? Or
It
were
was
they
because
just
she was
being
a
like,
woman.
oh, okay, well, that's fair. I was like,
I mean, let's be honest. Wanda was introduced around the time as Bewitched and shows like that were on the air.
that's fair.
I mean, probably earlier, but it's like, around that same period-ish. Witches were, for one thing, popular, and they were also always used as a term to describe women who were powerful.
And figure, like, if we're talking about, like, kind of the 70s, that's also the part where there's probably a bit of a backlash to a bit of a feminist movement coming through. So, which like
I mean,
powerful women are being witches and things like that.
arguably, but I kind of feel like with Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, it was not really a shot like that. I mean, yeah, they wrote women not always in the best approach because they had very 1950s, 1960s, 1970s sensibilities towards women, but at the same
And a bit
time,
of a shout out in the Fantastic Four movie.
Mhm. But
Cameos, yes.
yeah, but the thing is, they were also still very much women can be powerful, women can be strong, and all that stuff. They created Jean Grey, they created Scarlet Witch, and
Mhm.
the thing is, I do feel like they wrote the Scarlet Witch name partially because witch was a very common term to describe powerful women.
Fair.
But even from the first introduction of the Scarlet Witch, she was not a villain. She was a reluctant ally to Magneto.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, she started out with like we first met her as part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Yeah, but we saw immediately that she was not really on board with everything that Magneto was doing, but was there because they owed him.
I mean, yeah, after they dealt with like kind of the life death situation was dealt with in a fairly timely fashion because they switched from Brotherhood to Avengers within like what I want to say. I know I have it written down somewhere. I want to say like 10 issues or so. Like it wasn't like a long and drawn out kind of like switch.
Yeah, but I feel like it was like I think Stan Lee and Jack Kirby always had the vision of Wanda and Pietro being redeemable mutants. I don't get the impression that he wanted them to be true villains like Magneto was.
Well, speaking of Vision and what Wanda was able to pull off, despite like, without Vision or with Vision, however you want to describe it. How did she wander off with bits of Mephisto soul and not notice that she had like Mephisto soul just like hanging out whenever she like became pregnant?
Well, I mean, Wanda's powers are unpredictable. That's the problem. That's always been
Yeah.
the issue that she had. Her first interactions were like anytime she pointed her finger, something bad would happen. So her accidentally stealing a piece of a demonic overlord's soul, it's a bit extreme, but not fully surprising for somebody with Wanda's kind of powers.
See, and this is why I mentioned last week. I'm just like, look, if things happen to go a little bit wonky because you end up rolling a whole bunch of nat ones because of Wanda, like it could be because of other things, but Wanda can just go twitch, and all of a sudden, like
Yeah.
the odds change.
Yeah, Wanda, especially back then, it was like she had gained a lot more control over the years by this point when the kids were born. But it's like her powers were chaotic, and she was not always fully aware how they would function. And neither were everyone else around her. I mean, Doctor Strange, Agatha, they didn't realize what Wanda was doing, and neither did Wanda. She wasn't aware that she had inadvertently stolen a piece of the devil's soul and created two children with it. But the interesting thing was the children could only exist when Wanda was aware of it. She wanted kids, they exist, and if she stopped thinking about the kids, they stopped existing.
Okay, so wait, I'm sorry. Did everybody else but Wanda seem to recognize that the boys would like exist and not exist and exist and not exist, or did like just pretend that she was just like a little schizoaffective and just like hallucinating?
No,
Like
well,
what?
the thing is, as far as everyone was aware, the kids existed. They were there. They saw the children, they held them, they played with them, but the problem was anytime that Wanda wasn't thinking about them, they just disappeared and nobody knew what was going on. They were just like, where did the kids go? The funny thing is, since most of Wanda's friends were Avengers, usually the Avengers were with her on missions. So they weren't there. So Wanda would get a series of babysitters and nannies, and the babysitters and nannies would be like giving the kids a bath, and then they turn around and the kids are gone, and they have no idea what happened to them. But then Wanda comes back and is like, where's my children? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I was giving them a bath. They're gone. And then Wanda freaks out, runs into the bathroom, and there they are, sitting in the pool, tub. And she's like, you horrible person. How could you say that? You scared the hell out of me. You're fired. And they're like, I don't know what happened.
So the memories of the twins stay around, even if necessarily the existence of them. That's cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because the kids, Wanda was not messing with everyone's memories. She was creating literal people. They existed. It was not like a, illusion that she created. They were actual babies, but they could only exist as babies when Wanda was thinking about them. The minute she stopped thinking, everything went back to the nether.
So eventually, like the babies get properly like reabsorbed back into like what is it, Mephisto? Who is it? Who's got like the baby arms? Were like
Oh, that's Lord. God,
was it Pandemonium?
Pandemonium or something like that. Yeah, and he has the baby arms. It's like, oh,
There's a baby arm. Like I had
baby horror
babies for
choice.
arms.
I wonder if WandaVision thought about doing that at some point, putting baby arms, but
No, because I feel like baby arms in some ways are annoying, but I don't think that they drew like the parts where they had like diapers and such on there. So I feel like
no,
if
it
he
went
just
from torso to arm. There's no diapers.
right, I'm just saying like if he's gonna sit there and have like baby arms, but all they're doing is crying and there's none of like the poop or whatever, I feel like you know what, Pandemonium, you're getting the best part of it, so shut your mouth. But on that note, like how did Billy and Tommy come back? Like they were reabsorbed and then like they came back by sniping bodies of another Billy and Tommy? Like what
Well,
happened with these kids?
it's complicated, it's comics, but essentially, even though they were reabsorbed, Wanda was not letting go. So magical shenanigans and the souls of the babies like went out into the universe. And I mean, some stories say that they went back in or some theories say that they went back in time and were just reborn with other families. Others say that the souls took over other children.
Did they like find other kids who had their names already? Or did they just
I mean,
like
it's comics, it's convenience and stuff like that, but a lot of people believe that like it's kind of unclear in the comics. Like the movies made it clear that these souls took over the bodies of dead children.
which is
Like the child died and they went into that body. The comics make it more implied that time travel goes back in time, kind of, and these families just have kids who just so happen to have the souls of Billy and Tommy, and whether magical shenanigans or stuff like that, name them Billy
okay.
and Tommy.
So they're not sniping the bodies
I mean,
and lives of
they
other
might
kids.
be. They might be. That's the thing. It's complicated. It's confusing. But in, like I said, in the Agatha Long, they make it clear that they snipe the bodies.
Yeah.
It's like we watch Billy and Tommy's host bodies die, and their souls get put into those bodies. The comics, we don't see that on screen. We don't see that on panel. So it's more implied that this was a bit more less icky approach, maybe.
That makes sense.
But yeah, so essentially, the nice Kaplan family have Billy. They raise him. Billy doesn't know memories, no idea about Wanda or anything like that. All he knows is that he really likes the Scarlet Witch. He thinks she's an awesome person.
Because he's a nice Jewish boy.
Yeah.
And he appreciates his mother.
Yeah, and it's not until years later, bullying, that he meets the Scarlet Witch outside of the Avengers Mansion, and she consoles him after he's been bullied. And it's implied that she may have unlocked his powers subconsciously.
Okay.
And Billy, funny enough, has powers like Wanda. He's a magic user and a probability. He has very similar powers to her. Tommy, meanwhile, is...
These reality warpers really just need mama snuggles, like, hard.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And then you got Tommy, who he's born into a different family, which unfortunately is not as supportive and loving as Billy's family was.
Mm-hmm.
So Tommy ends up becoming a bad boy. He ends up in juvie, ends up arrested. Doesn't meet Billy until they're both teenagers, and the Young Avengers break them out of prison, and there's just this weird shot. This is part of the reason why everyone's pretty much assuming that the babies were just put into new bodies and back in time and like ate and grew up and stuff like that. Because in the comics, Tommy and Billy look exactly like each other.
Okay.
Where in the movies, I'm 99% sure the two actors are going to look drastically different.
So wait, are we saying that like Billy and Tommy have like a sister-sister situation happening when they become Young Avengers?
Very much so. And it's around this time that Billy really starts putting two in together, because he's like, Wanda had a son named William Thomas, or sons William and Thomas. My name is Billy, and I've got powers like the Scarlet Witch, and your name is Tommy, and you got powers just like her brother Quicksilver. There might be something to this. But this is also after the time of Disassembled, and the Avengers are, still kind of rebuilding, and Wanda is MIA.
Yeah, but okay, so this is when we have like the whole like the children's crusade kind of thing, and like where they have like the Young Avengers going and finding her, and they
because they're afraid that Billy is going to do what Wanda did, because Billy's powers have been growing exponentially more powerful.
That's fair, but they find her in Latveria.
Correct.
Engaged to Doctor Doom with no memory of stuff that's going on.
And that's the only reason she got engaged to Doctor Doom. I'll tell you that. It's like they ended up meeting their grandfather, Magneto. And, I mean, you talked about that last time, right?
I mean, the part where he's not actually her grandfather anymore? Or like,
you mean
he's
father?
Their grandfather anymore? Yeah, that's a whole separate problem for me, but yes.
Well, I mean, it's like, we're still going to call them grandfather and grandchildren because, long story short, we'll probably get to this later, but even though they might not be officially family anymore, because apparently Wanda's no longer Magneto's kid, as far as Wanda, Pietro, Magneto, and Polaris are concerned, he's still their father. They're still siblings. They still love each other. They still are part of each other's lives.
Wait, but I'm pretty sure that, so was Tommy Shepard's family Jewish?
Not as far as I know. They've never really discussed Tommy's family. So
I'm just saying because, they made sure that Billy was still like a nice Jewish boy, but Tommy being reincarnated from somebody else, they got rid of that. And so one of the things that I appreciate about one of the things that I appreciate about Wanda going on the Witch's Road is that they were able to actually canonize and reclaim her Romani Hitch, that Natalia is her mom, and she was raised by her aunt and uncle. Well, yes, I mean
we really should preface everything we say at the time of this recording.
Yeah, everything oh no, I already made a note. It's just anything that I say about Wanda's canon is all everything is for now, because if they can change her parentage after 30 years, you know what? Everything is for now. But for now, we have her Romani heritage restored.
We do.
And for now, we know who her mom is, but we don't know who her dad is. Her dad is
Yeah,
still unknown.
and that's the thing. It's like everything is constantly shifting. I know that we'll talk about it later, but they was a point where they were really trying to return Wanda and Magneto to being father-daughter sort of thing. But Marvel's still kind of, no, let's not do that. Going back to, with Tommy, we don't know what his religious background is. He's very much like, unfortunately, Tommy is often secondary to his brother. He doesn't get nearly as much attention. But yeah, so going back to...
when your brother can like warp the entirety of reality and your power is running really fast, I mean, it would have been nice if he and Pietro probably could have spent some more time together so they could sit there and be like, damn, being the spare isn't ideal, but I guess it's better than not.
The good news is more recent stories have had Pietro and Tommy bond with each other, especially over in the Scarlet Witch's solo book. So we've gotten a little bit more of that. We've gotten a bit more of the connection. But going back to the Children's Crusade, yeah, they team up with Magneto to find Wanda, who, like you said, is the Bride of Doom. And, this also leads to the Avengers and the X-Men finding Wanda. Huge fight because Avengers want to protect her, and the X-Men want her brought to justice for her crimes.
Gee, I wonder why. I mean, let's cycle back to the reason that they want to bring her to justice for her crimes. So we have the whole House of M storyline in which, so at some point, Wanda tweaks reality so all of the mutants are in charge, and she and Pietro and Magneto are all part of kind of like the ruling family. And Polaris, you know what, you're right. I need to stop.
I'm sorry, she always gets the shaft. People always forget about Polaris.
That's, yes.
And our coffee queen deserves love.
Okay. Polaris deserves love and respect and
coffee.
And coffee. I mean, but now I'm sitting there thinking about Sabrina Carpenter and like that Me Espresso and I'm staying up because North Star. Anyway, not the point. Not the point. The House of M starts like everybody gets to a certain extent what it is that like they want because Wanda is just like, let me like be like a super like wish granter thing. And of course, there's Wolverine who like he super heals through everything. So his brain is just like, nope, this isn't right. Let me super heal.
Yeah, it's like his brain has been damaged and ruined and overwritten so many times that his healing factor probably is spending more time repairing that than anything else. So anytime Wanda tried to shift reality, Wolverine's brain would snap back into place. It's kind of like what happened in Days of Future Past when they sent him back in time.
Yeah.
He still retained all of his memories and all that stuff and wasn't suffering like time travel brain damage because his body would heal.
Yeah.
But Wolverine, along with another character who was created for the series, House of M, Layla Miller, she knows stuff. That was legitimately her catchphrase. So she knew everything. She knew that the universe was not right. She knew that something was wrong, and she sought out the people who could help. And she unlocked their memories.
Did she do it while drinking?
She was 10.
I'm just trying to figure out how Tyrion... Oh, okay, so she's the same size as Tyrion. I'm just saying, he drinks and he knows things. She drinks a juice box. So she has grape juice and knows things, okay? I feel like it's really just like the grape juice when she's 10 and the grape juice when she's 21, If you start the grape juice when she's 10 and hang on to it for 11 years, and by the time she's 21...
You're really stretching this Lannister thing, aren't you?
Anyway, the important part is that Wanda...
They're the ones who keep things going, yeah.
Wanda was in charge of things, and then Wolverine and Layla were just like, what if instead of like this world where everybody has like low-key what it is they want and the mutants are in charge, what if instead not? And then everyone's just like, what if we told Wanda about actually the things that were going on? And Wanda got like super mad about all of the fact that people kept like sitting there like,
let's
not
circle back.
There are a lot of people who are not being as truthful with her as they could have been.
There.
Okay.
Go back there. Because the issue was Wanda did all this without anyone's consent.
Consent is sexy. That is the official position of this podcast. Consent is sexy and important.
100%. Because the whole thing, so spoilers for a 20-plus year storyline, this wasn't Wanda's idea. This was Pietro's. So the catalyst for House of M was that Wanda had suffered a complete mental breakdown during the events of Disassembled. And Xavier and Magneto had been trying to help her repair the trauma and mental damage, which, let's be honest, neither of them are therapists, and they should not have been involved in doing this.
Yeah, but you would think that somebody within the entire I still don't understand how Wanda never ended up with a proper therapist. Like there
Oh,
are
this is
too
a
many
question everyone's...
like
Wanda's
PhDs
not
and
the only one.
masters and
And that's the thing. That's a question everyone's asking about every single character.
someone's got to
But-
have like a social work degree or something in there. Nobody? There are no therapists in here? Okay, anyway, please continue.
There's like one therapist that they actively use all the time, and he's not a very good one considering his work with the Hulk. But anyways,
You can't
so-
take everybody.
so the thing is, Wanda's powers were out of control. Her mental stability was shot all to hell, and she was not getting proper mental health care.
Mm-hmm,
It came down to where Xavier and Magneto didn't know what to do,
mm-hmm.
and so they went to the Avengers and the X-Men and asked them, how do we handle Wanda?
Mm-hmm.
And majority of the Avengers were like, hey, we gotta, she's one of us, we gotta protect her, all that stuff. And the X-Men, especially Emma Frost, was like, put her down. She is a danger to everyone. She can't control her powers. If it gets out that the things that she did to the Avengers was the fault of a mutant, it will ruin any kind of progress we've made over the last few decades.
So like every black and brown person, whenever there's some kind of mass shooting, and they're like, please not us, please not us, please not us.
Essentially. And Emma was just like, no. And a lot of the X-Men unfortunately agreed, and some of the Avengers did too, that Wanda was too dangerous. Pietro found out about this and was just like, okay, I don't want you to die, so what if you just made everybody happy? What if you changed reality and made everything to where Father is happy and all the mutants have what they need and want and everyone's in like a better place? And he convinced Wanda to do this without anyone else's say-so, and Wanda did. She altered reality, made mutants the dominant species of the planet. Humans were essentially second-class citizens, but they're still allowed to live relatively comfortable. But the problem is, once Layla and Wolverine got everyone's memories unlocked, some people were happy about it, other ones were not, because they had their lives taken away, they had their lives changed and altered. I mean, Peter, for example, in this new timeline, Spider-Man was not married to Mary Jane. He was married to Gwen Stacy, and he was a celebrity. So he was kind of reluctant. But then you had others like...
Peter giving away his marriage to Mephisto means that I am not going to be as sympathetic to him being sad.
Keep in mind,
that Gwen
this
Stacy
hadn't
is
happened
his
yet.
wife.
This hadn't
Oh, okay.
happened yet.
Okay.
This was long before One More Day.
So wait, I'm sorry. He had already experienced a timeline where he wasn't married to Mary Jane, and he's like, what if I just try to do something like that again?
Let's not dig into that. That's going to be an entire conversation on its own.
Oof. Okay. Anyway, yes.
Yeah.
So.
Because it's like, I could go into a dissertation about Peter Parker, but, and I have. But, essentially the heroes who were awakened were like, we can't allow this because this is not what's really supposed to be, and altering reality on this scale is dangerous. We don't know what the long-term repercussions could be.
Yeah.
So they went in guns a-blazing to confront Wanda, thinking that she was the one responsible, and also thinking that Magneto was responsible.
I mean, it's not unreasonably. It's not like he hasn't sat there and been
agreed.
like, I am Mr., superior, mutant guy
Agreed.
for a while.
But then Magneto gets his memories back, and he's like, and this leads to him beating the absolute shit out of Quicksilver when he finds out what Quicksilver had done.
To be fair, Quicksilver had sat there and was just like, what if we completely alter everything? And let me just whisper, and I happen to have a fancy position and everything like that. But also, I feel like warping reality to be able to get mutants to prove that they are the kind of superior is not going to be as useful as winning it honestly to a certain extent.
Well, like I said, he was doing it just to save Wanda. That was all he cared about. He didn't care about actual mutant supremacy or anything like that. He just thought this would be easier because it would make Magneto happy. They could be a family because him, Polaris, and Wanda could be with their father, who has everything he wants and has no reason to fight anymore. and Wanda would be allowed to have her children because no one would question the daughter of essentially King Magneto having 2 kids. So no one's going to be targeting the boys. And
Yeah.
and keep in mind, this is after Billy and Tommy already were created as Wiccan and Speed. I think already existed at this point. But yeah, so Pietro did this just to save Wanda because he couldn't allow for his sister to die. Everybody goes after Magneto, Magneto goes after Quicksilver, and Wanda has enough. Her mental state is already shot to hell. Hawkeye shot her through the chest. Yeah,
Okay.
Hawkeye was very bitter in this universe. And Wanda just finally has it up. She also, Magneto saying, nothing we do is ever going to be good enough. Everything is always going to be messed up. It's always because mutants. And so, what does she say?
To have more black mutants because the fact that they do not have enough people sitting there talking about how you have to work twice as hard to get half as much, that's a whole conversation. But yeah, I'm just saying like there's not enough black mutants because like her complaining about like we have to work extra hard is like,
well, that's the thing. She wasn't even talking about like society. She was talking about Magneto. She was talking about Daddy. And I mean, there's 100% truth to what you said, but in this particular case, it was very personal for Wanda.
fair.
And she says the 3 words that messed up the X-Men for the next 20-some years.
No
more
mutants.
mutants. And as a result, 90% of mutant kind are wiped out, with only the ones who Emma Frost and Doctor Strange were able to protect.
Within the context of the entire multiverse too, we spend our time on like this Wanda and everything, but the entire multiverse has gotten messed up because she decided that she wanted to run her mouth because as a Nexus being, she can kind of like, touch everything.
Yeah, but she didn't really affect that many alternate universes because around the same time we were having stories like Exiles and other universes like the Ultimate Universe, and mutants were generally not being wiped out. She had the potential to do that, mind you, but it's heavily implied that cosmic beings were blocking that. Around this time, Jean Grey was dead and living in the White Hot Room as the Phoenix. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jean was just like, oh, nope, 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 nope.
All right, wait, hang on. Actually, as we're talking about Ultimates, you had mentioned something at some point in the past about why I didn't want to know about Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in the Ultimates.
Is this why you kept bringing up the Lannisters?
I was bringing up the Lannisters because, like, having a power of knowing things is what, like, Tyrion's power is.
Uh-huh.
Is there something happening in the Ultimates that we need to, like, tell people about?
All right, so I feel like most people are aware of this because it was a
Most people
recurring.
are not aware of this.
So a
Casual
recurring
nerds
joke.
are not aware of this.
So a recurring joke that I've been following Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver for ages is the fact that they are really close, like codependently close, and people have made jokes about how the appropriateness of it. Ultimate Universe, thanks to we'll say our writer Mark Millar, heavily implied for a while, and then flat out said that Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch were in an ancestral relationship. They were having sexual encounters, romantic encounters. They were dating each other, and they were still brother and sister twins. So yeah,
that's nasty.
Oh yeah, and this led like the full revelation because it was always heavily implied. Like artwork would draw them like fingers intertwined, looking like a romantic couple, and they were always hanging out together. And there'd be times where like if Scarlet Witch flirted with somebody, Quicksilver got really jealous, that kind of thing. But then the Ultimatum, or no, was it Ultimatum? I forget which storyline it was. It was one of the Ultimate series, and it flat out says that Wanda and Pietro were in love with each other. They were going out on a date together. Captain America, who in the Ultimate Universe is not our beloved Golden Retriever, Chris Evans type, he's a lot more of what people assume Captain America from the 90s would be like in the modern era, where he was kind of like a little bit racist, a little bit jingoistic.
More U.S. Agent than Captain America.
Not quite U.S. agent, but where he was just like a product of his time, as we say about baby boomers and the Greatest Generation. Where you have to forgive him for his behavior because he's a product of his time.
There's a whole lot of people from that time.
I'm not saying you do really have to forgive him. I'm just saying the mindset of how Captain America was treated in those stories.
I get it.
But he's confused, and it's like, in this case, rightly so. He's like, but they're brother and sister.
Yeah.
The Wasp, Janet Van Dyne, who in the main 616 I adore with all my heart. In this version, she's like, but they're in love. Like, this is acceptable.
Janet!
Uh-huh. Insert damn it, Janet. Uh-huh, there it is. And the other
Ew,
Avengers...
no, that is... Damn,
And the other
Janet,
Avengers...
Janet, this is not Rocky Horror. And even in that, Brad and Janet were not...
Yeah, there was no incest in Rocky Horror. At least I don't think there was.
Like, if there is, then we have, like, a whole other conversation to have. But no, like, Janet, ew!
Yeah, and meanwhile, the other Avengers honestly seem either accepting or don't care, beyond the fact that they're worried about how this will look from a public relations standard.
Because
they're afraid of what the public will say.
You have twincest happening? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
that's
they're more
nasty.
concerned. Yeah, they're not concerned about like how messed up this is for their friends. They're concerned about like what the public will say.
All right, you know what? I know.
Hey, you're the one who brought it up.
I know. We're gonna go back to the part where she says no.
Here's something.
Mm-hmm.
They're dead now.
You know what? The versions of them where they're being nasty, I can take that because like
immediately after this revelation, the Scarlet Witch is murdered, and I know we're supposed to be shocked and horrified, but at the same time, you're just like, they can't hurt us anymore. Their incest can't hurt us anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Quicksilver went on to continue for a few more years, but I think he's dead now too.
So we're not going to spend a whole lot more time going deep into the Ultimates. And in fact, we're going to cycle back. We're going to pull back into just general House of M, where Pietro and Scarlet Witch are siblings in a normal sibling kind of manner. All right, we're going to go to that. So Wanda has said the line, fucked everybody up, and now presumably none of the other mutants really want to fuck with her anymore, even after like stuff kind of got like...
Actually, they want to fuck with her more because they want her brought to justice. Like, they want her head on a pike at this period.
So, I mean, who found out that they weren't actually mutants at this point? Like, if she's sitting there just being like, nobody's a mutant anymore, who was sitting there like living their most Rachel Dolezal mutanty life?
Well, that's the thing. Immediately after Wanda said no more mutants, world goes white, and everyone just wakes up back home, wherever they are.
Mm-hmm.
So the Avengers wake up back at the Avengers Mansion, or Avengers Tower.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Spider-Man's in bed with Mary Jane, and the X-Men wake up to pandemonium. Because while a handful of the X-Men who were there and protected by Emma and Doctor Strange remember everything that happened at M-Day, nobody else realizes what happened. They don't realize M-Day was a thing.
Right.
So all they do is they wake up that morning, and 90% of the students at the Xavier School have no powers anymore. So kids who like had invulnerability and couldn't feel anything are punching the walls, making themselves bleed, excited about the fact they can actually feel something for once. Kids who thought they could fly jump out of windows and fall nearly to their death, only to be saved, thankfully, by like the Beast at the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
Wolverine pulls the body of a boy out of the pool who had water-based powers, and now he's dead because he drowned.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
And this is happening all over the world, mind you. 90% of mutants all over the planet Earth have woken up with their powers gone. The Blob, suddenly he lost all of his body mass, but he didn't lose all the skin. So he's this monstrous, just flesh being. The X-Man Chamber, whose powers manifested and destroyed his chest and face cavity. He had just like psychic energy blasting out of his body at that time. That power was snuffed out. So he's just this man who's barely surviving with a gaping hole in his chest and lower half of his face missing. He's on life support, barely surviving.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, and then you got people like both Quicksilver and Magneto lost their powers as well. Wanda wiped them of their abilities. So the entire world is in chaos. The X-Men are trying to hold everything together. The Avengers are not exactly proving to be a useful ally, because this is also followed shortly by Civil War, which led to a lot of drama, and the Avengers just kind of ruined their relationship with the X-Men at that point.
Wait, is this the part where they try and be like, we need to go and like take Wanda out because we know better than everybody else?
No, you're thinking of Hope Summers and... Yeah, no, so Civil War happened, and this was where Iron Man and Captain America took different sides on whether or not superheroes had to register with the United States government. And Captain America was like, no, these heroes need to have the ability to keep their anonymity, keep their privacy, not be targets. And Iron Man, after a horrible disaster, is like, no, we need to be controlled, we need to be regulated, we can't be running around willy-nilly with powers. The X-Men, meanwhile, during this period, 90% of their, entire species has been wiped out.
Yeah.
The remaining mutants are now living, literally, like, the remaining 10% of mutants are living either in the Xavier School or in an encampment surrounding it, surrounded by sentinels that the United States government had created to monitor, protect, and kind of keep them in one spot.
I would not be comfortable as a mutant or former mutant or mutant adjacent with a sentinel just like hanging
100%.
out. Cause
Yeah, the
like
X-Men were not happy about this. And keep in mind, the Sentinels, which were a program called ONE, I forget what the acronym stands for, but they were being, the liaisons was Val Cooper, who was a usually ally for the X-Men, and the soldiers who were like, the Sentinels were not the regular automated AI robots.
Okay.
They were instead more like mech suits that were piloted by soldiers.
Okay, so they're not sentinels in the same way then.
Yeah, but they look exactly like the normal Sentinels. That's the problem.
Yes, but they're like iron sentinels.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it any better for when you're spent your entire life fighting those things and they're standing right on your front door.
No, I recognize this, okay? Like, robot cop dog is not that much cuter than a real dog. And I love dogs, but cop dogs are a problem.
And but for the most part, the people who were working the Sentinels tried to be allies to the mutants for the most part. They were not like being overtly racist or mutinist and stuff like that, but it was still like an uncomfortable time for the X-Men. And meanwhile, the Avengers, they sent Carol Danvers, who was an ally and a member of the X-Men for a little while, to try to convince first time Tony shows up at the school and is trying to get Emma to get the X-Men to register and to sign up with this. And Emma's just like, I'm sorry. No. And Emma's just like, no, we're gonna stay here on our little internment camp sort of thing that you've set up for us, because we know what happens when you make people register for stuff. You've been trying to do it to us for years. Not to mention, we really don't owe you anything, because where were you in Genosha when our babies were burning?
Pretty much.
And then the X-Men had an incident where they were trying to get the humanized students back home to safety. So they were trying to get all the depowered mutants to a safe spot away from the school. They were attacked by some anti-mutant people, the Purifiers, run by Reverend Stryker.
Wait.
Or Colonel Stryker, as you might know from the X-Men movies.
Yeah, okay.
And a majority of this human student body were murdered. And during the funeral, Carol Danvers shows up and tries to once again get the X-Men to join the registration side, saying like, we can offer, better protection. Emma Frost hasn't. I'm not sure. She's still trying to convince them to register with them. And like I said, Emma Frost, she mentally tortures Carol, makes her experience firsthand the mass genocide that they experienced recently, even puts Carol in the grave of one of their dead students, makes her feel the pain of an entire family as Emma makes the phone call to let them know that their child is dead. So, yeah, the Avengers and the X-Men's entire relationship was ruined because of the combination of the Civil War event and Wanda's actions of wiping out mutant kind. Because at this point, Wanda was an Avenger. So as far as mutants and the X-Men are concerned, the Avengers were responsible for their species being decimated. That was actually the name of the period, decimation.
There. So did Senator Kelly actually find something else to whine about after the less than 0.5% of the world population got MDA'd, or was he just another demonstration of why throwing trans folks under the bus won't actually liberate any cis folks?
Well, Senator Kelly was dead at this time, so he didn't really have much opinion on anything. Yeah. He had died a few years prior. I forget when M-Day and the other events were taking place. But he had died, and like in most media involving Senator Kelly, he turned over a new leaf. He went from being an anti-mutant politician to actually being saved and being given a new understanding of what mutants were and who they were. And he actually became an ally towards mutants. He started fighting for their rights. He started advocating for them, which unfortunately did not do well with his former fan base because he was murdered by anti-mutant bigots right around the time that the legacy virus was being cured.
So he spent all of his time railing against mutant kind, and then he meets people who save him, and he's just like, oh, it turns out that like they're not actually like these like
He
why
realized he was
like
the
this
asshole.
yeah. And so other people don't sit there and say, oh, I wonder like what led him to change his mind. They're like, oh, obviously no, he's corrupted and we have to get it. Okay, cool.
Yep. So he got taken out around this time, and we didn't really have a specific political character who was. I mean, we'd have stuff in like the media where people are saying, "Oh, yay, this is what the mutants deserve," and all that stuff. But we didn't have like a Senator Kelly, figure type to advocate that beyond characters like William Stryker, who again was a reverend in the storyline, not a politician or a military officer.
All right. I mean, that's something, I
Yeah,
suppose.
but in the greater scheme, it's like a lot of it was, some humans were saying this is what mutants deserved. Mutants are struggling to rebuild themselves, and it started the ball rolling towards essentially the X-Men becoming a lot more militaristic, a lot
This
more
is where
isolationist.
Scott and Logan had their breakup, though, right? Because
It happened a while after this, because around this time period, Hope was born, and mutants were trying to like save her, and then the entire team relocated to San Francisco, where they actually had a good life. Like the mutants moved to San Francisco, and they were welcomed with open arms. They became part of the community. They were like considered superhero celebrities. But then the US government showed up and fucked everything up, especially because this was after Civil War. Everything had fallen apart. Norman Osborn took over as head of S.H.I.E.L.D., and just things got steadily worse. The X-Men were pushed out of San Francisco onto an island they called Utopia, which was anything but.
I mean, utopia technically means like nowhere to a certain extent, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can, and that's unfortunately how it was supposed to be like a utopian society, but it turned into that.
Yeah.
And around this time, the X-Men were still trying to maintain a good relationship with San Francisco. And a terrorist attack happened in the city, and Cyclops basically told one of their students, a hyper-religious, very broken girl with fire and ice powers, Aya, I believe that, or no, Oya. Sorry, I was getting her name wrong. Oya.
Oya, like the goddess of the storms, like the Orisha of the storms.
Yeah.
He had Oya incarnated, and he tried to tell her what to do.
Well, he not only told her what to do, but he said, "Do what you need to do," and she did what she needed to do, and she murdered a lot of terrorists. And Wolverine,
the wind Orisha is not really known for being kind to people who don't deserve.
Yeah. And Wolverine was not okay with this. He was not okay with turning a traumatized child into a weapon of death.
Fair.
And that resulted in the schism that you were mentioning, where Cyclops and Wolverine split. Wolverine decided to take as many people back who were willing to go with him to Westchester and rebuild the school, while Cyclops fell further into a more militaristic approach of the X-Men basically fighting to survive. And this led into Avengers versus X-Men. Wanda eventually got brought back into the fold.
So with this whole thing, because like there's a whole part where mutants are getting their memories like backed up on Cerebro and stuff. Like, how frequently is this happen, and are people making sure that backups happen consistently?
Okay, so we're jumping a little bit further ahead. So we got Wanda's whole thing where she comes back and she is she's rejoined the Avengers. Her kids found her in the Children's Crusade storyline, and mutants have gone through hell and back. I mean, they got decimated by Wanda, and then the Inhumans accidentally unleashed the Terrigen Mist, which was poisoning mutants and causing even more deaths. Because while it unlocked Inhuman powers, it killed mutants. So shit's gotten real. And that brings us to the Krakoa era, where we are introduced to the resurrection protocols. Now, our listeners who have followed a few episodes, we've mentioned this before, but essentially the mutant resurrection protocols were created on the new island nation of Krakoa, where Xavier, Magneto, and a newly revealed mutant, Moira McDaggart, brought mutants together and created a whole society and culture. And part of that culture allowed mutants to be resurrected. 5 mutants: Proteus, Hope, Tempest,
Egg.
Elixir, and Egg, aka Gold Balls.
Yeah, no, that dude's name is Egg.
Yeah. So when their powers are combined, they are allowed to resurrect any mutant that they can. However, in order to complete the resurrection, they need memories, backed up memories. So Xavier, as it turns out, throughout years of time, has been using Cerebro to download the memories of every mutant on the planet. So, and the memories are the Cerebro is constantly backing up more memories. Well, that's the thing, if you're a mutant. So around the time before Krakoa happened, during a event that I cannot remember the name of it. Do you remember what the name was called?
Describe
Inversion.
it.
Inversion, that was it.
Yes.
So during the storyline Inversion, shenanigans happen and the personalities of a bunch of heroes and villains
Oh no, it
are
was an
inverted.
Axis. It was an Axis thing, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Access. Thank you, Access. Yeah, that's it. I could not remember for the life of me. So Access shifted the axis of multiple heroes and villains. So suddenly certain villains like Sabretooth were heroes, and certain heroes like Wanda became villains.
Yeah.
And during this, Wanda goes full, like, I'm evil, and decides she's got daddy issues she needs to resolve. So she casts a spell to boil the blood of, or something like that, of any family member of her bloodline.
Yeah. How'd that work
Pietro's
out?
on the ground, writhing in agony, but Daddy Magneto is not the father.
Surprise!
Yeah. So it turns out they used this storyline to reveal that everything we knew for the last few decades was a lie. Wanda and Pietro were not Magneto's kin, and they were in fact not really mutants. The only reason they did this was because at the time, Marvel and Disney did not own the rights to the X-Men. That was under the control of Fox, which was still a separate company. So they wanted to cut ties so that way they could use Wanda exclusively in the Marvel movies and not share.
Harry, and he messed with the babies on Wondagore.
Yeah, which, I mean, it was an easy access thing because the Wondagore and High Evolutionary are already part of their backstories.
Yeah,
But
like,
it was a BS move, and everybody's still not really happy about that. But they used that as an excuse to reveal that, no, they were not mutants and they were not Magneto's children.
yeah,
Which
I have a whole issue with that, especially because of the fact that, like, it means that to a certain extent there's a whole, like, I'm glad that we found out about, like, Natalia Maximoff being,
Romani,
like,
yeah,
like being her actual mom and Romani and such, but like they sat there and just like, okay, so like we have like this very, like a very specific narrow group of people, because there's not a lot of Romani Jews that are out there. And
No.
they're like, what if instead of them having the parentage of Magda and Eric, they had some completely other random behind parentage. And like in a lot of streams of Judaism, you're only Jewish if your mom is Jewish. Like Reform Judaism, like is going, like accepts like patrilineal Jews, but a lot of Jewish streams, like they only accept it if your mom is Jewish. And so Natalia could have been a Romani Jew because like they're from Serbia, and there was a lot of like cross-pollination between like the Romani and the Jews in Serbia. But it's very possible that they've just sat there and completely like wiped out her whole like Jewish backstory to a certain extent.
Yeah, they've not really delved in. I mean, in general, they don't often delve into the religious characters or religious histories of a lot of characters. And in fact, like during most of Wanda's existence, I don't think they really ever discussed her religious faith.
Yeah.
And it's like after the revelation of Magneto, it's like, yes, she's Jewish, but it's one of those that they never really did anything with in the stories, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I ever saw an issue where Wanda was holding a Passover or any kind of like celebrating Jewish traditions, because I mean, as far as we're aware, with the Romani family, she was never raised with those traditions.
I mean, she might have just had like a different like emphasis on stuff.
Yeah.
There's plenty
And
of Jews
her
who go
relationship
to
with
shul
Magneto
on
was
Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
Yeah. But yeah, we don't know, but because they never delved into that. And her relationship with Magneto was never one that I ever think they sat down and had like a, proper Seder dinner or something like that.
Yeah. Which, they probably could have gone over to Ben Grimm's house. I'm sure that he would probably have one.
Well, it's funny enough, Kitty and Ben Grimm regularly have Hanukkah dinners and stuff like that, where they invite like all the Jewish superheroes to Temple, and they have a big thing with the local community on Yancey Street. So it's a very sweet thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's one of those where Wanda's backstory, yeah, we're still not entirely sure where a lot of her family ties lie as a
Yeah,
result
because
of this new shift. But it's one of those where also they have done stuff where, like I said, as far as Wanda, Magneto, Polaris, and Quicksilver are largely concerned, they're still family.
yeah.
So as far as Magneto's concerned, Wanda's still his daughter, and I feel like especially nowadays with how their relationship has healed in more recent years, I do feel like that now they are probably having like a proper Jewish dinner together. I wouldn't be surprised if Magneto is inviting her up to Alaska with the X-Men team and they're, celebrating their, his background and his faith and all that stuff. Not to mention the fact that Wanda's son is also Jewish. At least one of them
Yes.
is, as far as we know. Because again, since we don't know if they're ever going to reconnect the family ties, and considering the fact that technically Billy and Tommy are more spiritually Wanda's kids than anything else at
Yeah.
this point. But I could imagine that Billy would invite Wanda over for, Jewish celebrations and stuff like that, and for Hanukkah.
Listen, I'm just going to tell you that matzo ball soup is so good.
It really is.
Even bad matzo ball soup is really, really good.
Yeah. So it's one
So,
of those where it's like, I would like to believe that, even if Wanda isn't officially Jewish anymore because of the retcons,
yeah,
I I do think that on some level she is still Jewish, if not on a fully, you know,
it's not like she
familiar
can't figure
sense.
out how to get the paperwork done and hit the mikvah. So, like,
Well,
if
it's
they
like
need to, they can
if they
figure
ever
it
want,
out.
but the thing is, I feel like on multiple levels, she's still part of the tribe. She's
Yeah.
just not, maybe not like biologically part of the tribe.
So on a different tribal front, though, to a certain extent, like how much of the redemption arc that Wanda's had, like how redeeming is she? Like, is it like on site with her for like the entire mutant community, or like are people okay with her now?
It's still complicated because after what happened, and especially once Krakoa was created, Wanda was not welcomed. She was the pretender. She was the fake mutant who destroyed. She was a monster. They told horror stories and monster stories about Wanda, about how dangerous she was and how she lied for decades about being a mutant when she never was one, and she was never really a true mutant because she hid behind the Avengers and the humans. So there was a lot of hatred towards her, and she was not technically invited to the first Hellfire Gala event on Krakoa, but Magneto still welcomed her, and because again, as far as Magneto's concerned, this is my little girl.
So I mean, that's like it's not like he was super negatively impacted by most of the things.
He was, oh yeah,
Wait,
because people blamed him for what happened to Wanda.
okay, well that's fair.
Yeah, and it's like he like the X-Men placed the blame on him because it's like you couldn't be a good father, and because you went psycho and started domestic, your son, your daughter went crazy and wiped us out. So this is also your fault.
Okay,
Yeah, so
so
Magneto had a lot of fallout from everything that happened himself.
so I know that there was a
So
point in time in which Scarlet Witch got,
yeah,
and Magneto ended up on trial for it. Is this the fallout that like
this is what it was all leading to because Magneto did invite Wanda, and it was there that they declared that they were still daughter and father and stuff like that.
Mhm,
Magneto forgave Wanda for what happened because he
mhm.
understood that she was sick, she was not in control, and a lot of stuff was happening to her at that time. A lot of it, Doctor Doom. Could have turned out they retconned things to where it was Doctor Doom's fault all along. The song's not as good with him. But yeah, but the thing is, Wanda is found dead. And what's worse, she's found by her son Tommy.
I'm sorry, Tommy found her?
Tommy was one of the people who found her, and it's heartbreaking because you see him screaming Wanda, and then he says in a small voice, Mommy. So it's honestly one of the first times that you see him that. I mean, you see him with Wanda a few times over the years, and he cares about her, but this is the first time you see the child that he was.
Mm-hmm.
And Billy is there, and they are both horrified, and the Avengers are called in to try to figure out what's going on. The X-Men are trying to run an investigation. They have a team called X Factor who are basically the mutant crime team. And Wanda gets resurrected. But this is not something that is against mutant law at the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not allowed, like, only mutants are supposed to be allowed to be resurrected. And Wanda is not a mutant.
Mm-hmm.
This has not been retconned. This has not been undone.
Okay.
She is still a mutant. Magneto is being blamed for it because he, basically they tie him to the crime scene. And the thing is, he kind of is responsible, but only because that was the plan that he and Wanda had gone in on together.
I'm sorry, what?
Wanda, during this period, ever since her resurrection, excluding the Uncanny Avengers series, honestly, they wrote her kind of she was kind of a bitch in that series. Like, she was just saying, stop blaming me for everything that happened. So it's getting pissed that people were angry at her. Like,
Okay.
Rogue was holding a grudge, and Wanda was just like, oh, get over it, essentially. So, did not do much to help Wanda's case, but eventually they got to where Wanda was trying to make amends. And one attempt resulted in the near zombie apocalypse.
Wait, I'm sorry. I thought that the zombie what thing was a what if. Was that not a what if?
Oh, no, that's a what if. But Wanda used her magic to try to resurrect the dead mutants on Genosha, and didn't go well. But she used her knowledge from that incident for her next plan, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And she used her magics, and she used basically the concept of the maiden mother crone.
Mm-hmm.
And when she died, she essentially connected with 3 variations of herself. As a child, or as a young, newly minted Scarlet Witch, as a mother around the time that she had Billy and Tommy, and as an old crone. And she was able to use her magics to expand the resurrection protocols. But before we get deeper into what that means, Wanda was resurrected using the mutant protocols that they had at the time.
Right.
But the thing was, when Wanda's memories, or when it was realized that Wanda wasn't really a mutant, Cerebro was no longer backing her up.
That's what it was. Okay.
So they got an earlier version of Wanda when she still thought she was married to the Vision, and when before M-Day and before the disassembled storyline. So Wanda is like this confused mess of not really realizing what's going on. But thanks to the teamwork of Rachel, Jean, and I think a couple other telepaths, Wanda's memories are restored, and the spell is able to be completed.
And she goes crazy.
No.
She stays sane. She stays sane.
She stays sane because now she remembers what her plan was. And Wanda essentially is able to use her magics and her death and her access to the afterlife and stuff like that to be able to reach beyond the veil and expand the resurrection memory protocols to people who died before the protocols were created. This means every single mutant who ever died prior to Xavier, Magneto, and Moira's plan can now be brought back. So characters who died during like the early years, like Thunderbird, John Proudstar, he's alive again.
So she does the opposite of M-Day in this, in that instead of like getting rid of 90% of the mutants, she's just like, cool, everybody who we lost before, they're coming back and we're going to have a big old party.
100%. And among them is one that a lot of fans were really happy about, but they haven't followed up on. So the character Northstar and his husband, when Northstar first came out as gay, he had adopted a baby.
When did Northstar get got?
Oh no, he's not dead.
Okay, I was going to say, like, hang on, no, we can't, like Northstar is
Northstar died and got resurrected long before this whole storyline.
Okay, I'm just checking, because, like, the barrier thing is too strong.
Oh, no. Actually, Northstar was leading the investigation into Wanda's death in this storyline.
Okay.
So he was very prominent. And there's a great scene where he is able to catch Quicksilver, who's freaking out about Wanda being dead, and is able to console him. But anyways, so when Northstar first came out as gay, part of his storyline during that issue was that he adopted this baby he found who was dying of AIDS. She died shortly after, but he came out during the storyline, and, he was a father. Even if it was just for a little while, he was still a father. And him and his husband, they talked about having kids someday, but it was something that Quicksilver was still mourning the loss of her. Well, part of the resurrection protocols that Wanda had expanded was it also allowed them to learn potential that certain people could have.
Okay.
He found out that the baby was going to be a mutant, and that they could bring her back. So Quicksilver's dead daughter was resurrected.
Northstar.
Or not Quicksilver. Northstar's dead daughter was resurrected.
I feel like this is a little bit better than the ending of Love and Thunder. Gore's daughter comes back, and I'm not going to try and be cute about that one as a spoiler because
It's been years.
it's been a while. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry if you were like behind on this,
But
but
it's so sweet
that's
because you see North Star come into the bedroom while his husband's reading. He sits down and his husband's like, "What's going on?" And North Star just kind of says, "We're going to be fathers." And he then explains what happened, and you see them both crying and hugging each other. And it's one of the sweetest things. And after this, Wanda finally is welcomed back by the mutants.
yeah.
And we see, so part of the story opened with a character named Exodus. He's a very like pious religious character because he was a mutant who was around during the Great Crusades. Yeah, he's
Okay.
that old.
There's
And
a lot of
he,
like surprisingly old folks running around here. We're gonna have to
oh
talk about
yeah,
that at some point.
but he was telling the mutant kids the story about Wanda, the Great Pretender, the Great Horror, and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And he's telling like a horror story. But this story ends, and it's like a lot. There's a lot of controversy about the story, and not everyone's happy with how it came out. I have a lot of issues with it too, but I do like how this ended, where the story is bookended with Exodus talking to the kids again, with Wanda sitting next to him, and he says she is no longer the Great Pretender; she is the Redeemer, and the children are allowed to talk with Wanda and stop being afraid of her.
I'm not gonna lie, I think that the children not being afraid of Wanda anymore is probably the sentence that she would want to hear more than anything else. And I can't think of anything better to like kind of close on the massive story that is Wanda Maximoff than she gets to a point where she's not the pretender anymore. The children are not afraid of her.
And
Also, but I like
I just want
before
to
we
say one
close
more
it off,
thing.
it is important that we point out things that I love. Wanda's direct boss is possibility, which means that she can actually sass every other concept of the universe because the universe settling down and like having a set like a whole set of rules thing. That lady could just sit there and to a certain extent like just twitch her fingers and the entire universe would like form differently.
I mean, that's the thing. That's what part of the reason why she's considered so dangerous and so powerful, because of the fact that she is Nexus being. She is able to alter the probability of all things. And I think that's one reason why it's like whether or not she's fully redeemed for the things that she does is gonna vary on person to person. Like the mutants have for the large part forgiven her for what she's done. But there's still gonna be people who are gonna hold a grudge.
Yeah.
I mean, Emma Frost has been a part of the X-Men for like 30 years now, and she still gets side eye every time she even like sneezes weird.
Yeah.
But Wanda, she's progressed, she's grown, she has unlimited potential for good and evil. Her most recent storylines have been a lot of the stuff of her still working to redemption. She owns a bookstore now. She has Darcy from the Thor series as her assistant. So
I
Darcy
love
has
Darcy.
officially crossed over.
Nice.
And a lot of stories follow just like her rebuilding her relationships with her family. She connected with Quicksilver, of course. She's built a closer relationship with Polaris, her sons as well, and her new son-in-law, Hulkling. She's taken on trainees, and she is, she even connected with her kind of uncle, Joseph, Magneto's clone. And, she and her father are in a better place than they were for a long time. So yeah, Wanda is a being of infinite potential, good and bad, and I'm just glad that she's finally getting back into a better place where she's allowed to be a hero again.
I mean, she deserves it. And maybe if she's a hero, then somebody will let her go to therapy.
God, honestly, I would love to create an entire series for Marvel where it's literally just like a team of therapists who work with different superhero teams, but they all work in the same office.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would love to just have stories where it's like one of them is coaching Cyclops through his current PTSD. Another one is discussing, oh, I don't know, Mystique's identity crisis issues.
Yeah, but then the real question is like, how many of them are going to actually be the kind of psychics who are sitting there putting mental blocks on people to like stop them from being like triple crazy?
Wait, on the oh, you mean psychic
On
therapist?
yes.
Oh no, that's the thing. I don't want any superpowered therapists.
Oh, they're all mundane therapists who are sitting there
They
dealing
are
with all
all
these.
exactly. They are real humans, not empowered, not mutants, not aliens, not gods. They are normal humans who are living in this fantastical world and actually having to talk Thor through his daddy issues or discuss with, Wolverine how violence does not equate love, or discussing with or having to help Carol and Tony in like a group therapy session regarding their AA sponsorship and alcohol abuse.
So we're gonna have to like wrap it up here because I am sitting here thinking about all of the different ways that we could have everybody do different things, and I feel like Jubilee would
'Cause-
also like be really great for like when people get discharged, she could like throw a little like a lightning show or
Well,
fireworks show up.
funny enough, I was kind of thinking it's like a character who I think would make a good therapist is Jubilee.
I mean, she's got more patience than most of the other X-Men do.
Yeah, I feel like she'd be the tough love kind of therapist. But it's like, if you ever read the Generation X series, where she is a teacher at the Xavier School, I feel like she wouldn't be too bad as a therapist.
Yeah. Now all we have to do is get a few more people who are like going through therapist school so that we can actually deal with some of these superhero things.
Well, that'd be one thing I would love for the book, to actually get like actual therapists involved in it. If I would ever able to pitch this. Shout out to Andrea Ledamente, I believe her name is. She runs the podcast, the Gotham Sessions, where she is a clinical psychologist who discusses like Batman the Animated Series and other shows and cartoons and stuff, and discusses the psychology of it. And it's like she was hired as the therapist for Barbara Gordon in the comics. Like Gail Simone reached out to her, said, "I'm doing this story about survivor's guilt, PTSD," and Andrea was written into the books as a therapist. And I would love to do that for Marvel, where we get like actual therapists, make them into characters in the comics, and have them like have the writers discuss with the therapists how to do the therapy for these characters.
It'd be so much fun. We are going
and I'm
to
pitching.
I know,
Marvel, if you're listening, Marvel, if you're
put a pin in
listening,
this though, and like see what we can do, because Kevin needs to reach out to us about Marvel therapists after we do Eyes of Wakanda, which should be coming out this week, I think. So let's honestly, I would love for Wanda to get therapy. I would love for honestly all of the Avengers and the mutants and everybody else to get therapy, and not with Charles or Jean.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this. All the characters need therapy, but all the mutants need therapy, especially because the events of Krakoa alone, not to mention M-Day, decimation, a lot of therapy needed.
Yeah, considering the fact that the mutant population really capped out at about 30 million or so overall, that's, therapy is going to be important. So,
and from legit therapists, not Charles Xavier, you are not a therapist, sir.
No.
Just because you can go in somebody's head does not mean you can fix their mental health.
Emma, that's right. I'm sitting here.
Emma actually does have psychology training. She's just not a good sex therapist.
Okay, yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm
no,
not
it's like
gonna lie.
You're not entirely you're not wrong, but she does arguably have a little bit more training than Charles does.
Either way, we're going to wrap this up, and we will be back to tell you what's happening this week in your nerd calendar. Here we go. Welcome back to our thrilling conclusion. Okay, so before we let you go, we need to look at things that are happening on our nerd calendars this week. There's debuts and premieres and anniversaries. Oh my. All right, let's not get too ridiculous about it. So on 1986, Howard the Duck film opened in theaters. I did not see Howard the Duck in theaters because I was 1.5, but I did actually eventually see Howard the Duck. It was
And how did you like Howard the Duck?
Time I thought it was cute because it was like, the duck, and I was a baby. And now I'm just like, I don't know if I would want to go and look at that again, because that is terrifying and uncomfortable.
I will say this, as Marvel's first ever cinematic release film, Howard the Duck wasn't too far off from the comics. Although the fact that duck tits were part of it.
You know what? So on 8/2/1962, he made his magnificent, mischievous first first appearance in Journey into Mystery number 85.
And unfortunately, he did not look like the MCU actor at the time.
8-3, Superman was made a world citizen by the UN. In 8-4, 1964, the Purple Man, aka Zebediah Kilgrave, was introduced in Daredevil number 4. And yes, I mostly brought that up because I want to talk about how David Tennant was so good in that role in Jessica Jones 1 and 2.
Yeah, but let's be honest, the kind of character he played kind of made it to where you gave David Tennant side-eye. He was way too good at that role.
Okay, well, also on 8-4, 1981, we have Avengers Annual number 10, which has the first appearance of Rogue.
Shout out to Lenore Zan, the iconic voice of Rogue.
A very, very cool person.
Tell me you don't hear her voice whenever you read comics with Rogue.
I didn't say that. That's why I said a very, very cool person. But, you know, while we're talking about cool people and cool things, are there any premieres or rewatches that we want to talk about this week?
Well, as we discussed earlier, Fantastic Four is absolutely amazing, and I was very, very lucky to attend the blue carpet premiere, as I mentioned in our intro, thanks to my friend Jason, aka Nerd Alert Cosplay. He was kind enough to invite me along as his +1, and we got to walk the blue carpet, and see. Yeah, and we saw the props from the show, and we were in the cosplay area where we were all in costumes. Jason was dressed up as Reed Richards. I was dressed up as his son Franklin. We were surrounded by numerous things, torches, invisible women, and a few Doctor Dooms and Galactuses as well.
Nice.
And we got to see majority of the cast come by.
Nice!
Yeah, so we saw, Invisible Woman, Thing, Human Torch, Silver Surfer, Galactus. We saw all their actors come by. We also got to see Pedro Pascal for a brief moment, so gonna grab something real quick.
Pedro Pascal, you got to hang out in the same general location as Pedro Pascal.
Yes, and I was able, thankfully, to get autographs from a majority of the cast on my pass. The only one, however, I did not get was Pedro. He unfortunately got pulled away before he got to our section of the fandom area. So, missed out on him.
Do you think if we tag him that he can, come and sign it later?
I don't think he has Instagram.
We can figure something out.
Yeah, it's like, if we were able to get a hold of him, that'd be fantastic, but, I know. But we had a great time. We got to, see the movie before everyone else did. They started the show with the orchestra who did the soundtrack for the Fantastic Four, doing a live concert for us. They did a drone thing at the end where, hundreds of drones doing, the different characters, locations, countless fours, and we had just so much fun, and I got to see so many of my friends who regularly get invited to these things, so It was a great time, and just, fingers crossed, Marvel, if you're listening, I would love to be invited for Avengers Doomsday, because I do Nightcrawler cosplay, and I would really like to meet Alan Cumming. No pressure, not pushing, but if you want.
I mean, that's not coming out until the end of December. Is there anything else that's happening sooner?
More immediately, tomorrow night, or actually tonight now, at Scum and Villainy in Hollywood, California, we are going to be doing a viewing party for the new TV series Eyes of Wakanda. Mm-hmm. It's being run by Chris Riley and Kevin Winston of Digital LA and The Uncanny Experience. So anybody who's in the Hollywood area, 6:30 tomorrow, please come and join us. And also, this Friday, a new episode of Words of the Witches podcast will be dropping. Mm-hmm. It's hosted by my friends Kevin and Sean. I have been invited for this episode where we will discuss all things Charmed. Ooh. So if you enjoy The Powers of Three, we will be discussing issue 9 of the Charmed magazine, where we have lots of fun and discuss how Mrs. Doubtfire is part of the Charmed universe.
Yeah, I definitely need to listen to that because what? You know what? Nope. Nope. We're not doing spoilers. As long as you make sure that you announce about our podcast on there, then it's fine. Having said that, though, Listeners, we have in fact come to the end of our podcast. And I know you're clearly devastated about it. I mean, how could it possibly be over so soon? Well, good news. Our next episode's coming out next week. And you're also more than welcome to listen to this episode again if that's not fast enough.
Nerd cred takes time to build.
But so does a redemption arc with interdimensional backup copies of your trauma.
If you like the episode, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe, especially if you're trying to up your nerd cred.
You can follow us on Instagram at Up Your Nerd Cred Pod. And if you're looking for me across platforms, I'm at CiCi Davis.
And I am AM Diaz Art. Come yell at me about continuity errors or show me your fan art. Either way.
We'll be back next week with even more multiversal mess. Good night, everybody.